good.
All right, what's up, my friends? Look at this handsome man down in the bottom corner today joining us. This is the voice. Yeah, the voice you've been hearing on our Twitter Spaces. Let me make his mug a little bit bigger for our screen here. This is the voice of Twitter Spaces. This is Chris Robinson. You can find him on Twitter at Detroit Beastie. You can find him in Discord, hanging around, posting content on the website. This guy's all over the place, works for a lot of places, but we're trying to get him involved as much as we can at Rise or Fall because, listen, the teamriseorfall.com members love this guy. He spits fire, he's sharp, he's intelligent, and above all else, my friends, he's incredibly kind. And that's the type of people we like to surround ourselves with in our community. Chris, thanks a lot for being here tonight. I'm happy to put a face to that beautiful velvety voice of yours.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. And again, I've done a lot of broadcasts. I'm not saying that, to pat myself on the back, but I can honestly say I can't remember the last time I had such a nice, sharp, very outstanding introduction. So thank you for that. And here we are.
You're absolutely welcome, my friend. Hold on. I'm going to go ahead and pop in a headset just so people don't get feedback. Forgot I had to do that. All right, so tonight we've got a beautiful, beautiful slate. I like these types of slates after we've had some massive, massive slates. And then we had a couple Coors field slates. We had one this afternoon. So we get a kind of little break, right? We get a little break for not having to deal with this garbage. And I'm going to go ahead, and I'm using the teamriseorfall.com study hub. You guys can grab this off the MLB homepage or the tools section. So that way, when Chris and I are talking about players, talking about ownerships and projections, things of that nature, you can all at least follow along the best that you can through our stream. This stream today is brought to you by mysparty.com and teamriseorfall.com, both the two sites that I'm kind of going to be using in conjunction with this stream to try to give everybody the information they need. So first things first, I am going to organize my study hub so that it is only tonight's games that will allow us to really kind of look through it and see that we have a 6-game slate tonight. Arizona at San Francisco, Baltimore at Cleveland, Boston at Atlanta, Chicago Cubs at New York Mets, Yankees at Toronto, and we have the Rangers at the Astros, the battle for Texas. So when you're looking at a slate of this size, Chris, specifically after a slate where last night we had 30 teams to choose from, when we talk contest selection, when we talk lineup construction, does anything change for you when you are comparing a 12-team slate versus a 30-team slate?
Well, the short answer is no, right? I like to keep my research and my process the exact same, because when I start throwing wrenches and things and I get out of my routine, then my lineups suffer. But realistically, absolutely, I love smaller slates. I've made no bones about the fact that two to three slates, or excuse me, 2 to 3 game slates are my forte, right? And then we had one earlier, locked at 3:37 Eastern PM here in Michigan, and I just couldn't. I had 50, 100, $150 worth of lineups in, and I wound up canceling a lot of them because about 20, 30 minutes before lock, I just couldn't figure it out. And when I break, DFS down, number one, I say it all the time, it's about contest selection, right? And the second one, it's like a puzzle, players and teams. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm trying to fit the right puzzle pieces where I want it. And I just couldn't figure out what pitcher that I wanted to use at 337 in relation to my stack. So I gave it all up. I'm looking at Maine a little bit here tonight, and I love the after hours slate at 10:10 this evening. I think it's Philly and at the Dodgers, and then Minnesota at Seattle. So I'm very honed in on the after hours, but we're here to talk the main slate. So to answer your question, I get off on a tangent. No, not really much changes for me. I guess I can, smaller slate, I can do this and I can breathe a little bit easier. It's not 30 players, or excuse me, 30 teams is insane to pick from. Again, not to be rude, but you're better off playing a scratch off ticket or using the rise or fall, network of people and everything that they got. Because if you want to, comb through all this stuff, there's no better place to do it with the minds on the Discord and the fantasy cruncher stuff. It's elite. Let's be honest, Mitch.
Phenomenal. Craig Mills just talking away, no audio. I'm so stupid. This is what happens when I haven't hosted a dual stream in 2 months. Oh,
2 months.
golly, what a bonehead. So, look at the chat. Yeah, I forget to look at the chat too. Subtitles. Yeah. All right, this is not a Twitch chat. Remember, we're in the YouTube library right now. Y'all got to keep it down a little bit different here. Listen, we got an 8-game slate. I missed the Philly and LA Dodger game. I missed the Seattle and Minnesota game. Seattle's got some nice hot hitting lefties. An interesting spot. I kind of like that one. We're going to talk pitchers first tonight. We've been glossing over them. Pitching is where you often can lose your night. You can't really win your night with the pitching. That's where the stacks come into play. But we're going to go over pitchers, talk about some cash pitches, and talk about some GPP pitchers as well. And I will also be showing the FanDuel Study Hub, and I will show specifically the FanDuel cores for Chris Robin and whom he has both for cash and GPP. So, Chris, if you want to start talking pitchers, take it away, homie.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, thank you. So, as I said, all I ever try to do is share my personal process, right? Everybody on earth, you can use a calculator. You can crunch numbers. You can see strikeouts and whip and exit velo and things of that nature. Every night, again, made no secret about this. Every night I start for tomorrow's slate. So when we're done with this broadcast, I'm going to be looking ahead to tomorrow. And I say that to tell you this, where I look at a lot of the over-unders. To be honest with you, I don't even look at the pitcher's name. I look at the over-unders. I look at the projected lineups, the projected run totals, and things from there. And then, I see, Philly at Dodgers tonight. Over-unders kind of low for those teams at 7. Who's the pitchers there? If that makes any sense. But when we go to, the cores, if you have it up in front of everybody here, my cash cores on DraftKings tonight, you'll notice I don't have any of Garrett Cole tonight, and I'll tell you why coming up here. So Clayton Kershaw, left-handed pitcher, and Anthony DeSclafani this evening for San Francisco. And when you look at that, so Arizona's going to San Francisco. It's a big park, got McCovey Cove. People hit bombs there all the time, but the over-under in that one is 8 runs, and San Francisco's projected to score about 5 or 6 of those. So if you're telling me that a very cold, very awful Arizona team is coming into a big park to play against Anthony DeSclafani, who's only $7,700 on FanDuel, I have him projected for about 30, 31, anywhere between 32 fantasy points for that price. So give me DeSclafani there, and then Clayton Kershaw against Philadelphia. And I know what you're thinking. You don't want to pick on Philadelphia. They have they can go on runs and some hot hitters there. Well, Gene Segura is just recently been put on the IL. So that still leaves Bryce Harper and Rhys Hoskins, those guys. Odubel Herrera, I think, is leading off tonight. But in that game, and I'm looking down at my notes at the same time, I have the Dodgers winning this one 6-1. So if you're telling me a game in LA, Philadelphia's on the road, they come in, and we'll get a classic Clayton Kershaw game this evening. And again, I don't have any fancy stats. I don't have any fancy numbers. It's what I do the night before to get to this. I told you, I look at the over-unders. I look at the projections because, again, everybody on earth, mainly in today's day and age of DFS and everybody's broadcasting, you'll be bored to sleep with everybody going, well, he's got an ERA, this. I go from the gut, and it pays off, and I try and, tell people my process along the way, and I promise I won't say process anymore. I've said it about 15,000 times so far. Let's move on into FanDuel real quick if I could. My GPP cores and DraftKings, Zach Wheeler and Merrill Kelly. So again, I know I said I like DeSclafani and the other one, but it's going to be like a 4-1, 4-3 kind of game somewhere in that line. So I like both pitchers in this one, and there's no rules that say you can't use both pitchers from the same game. We're allowed to do what we want. We're adults. Well, some of us are, and we go from there. In the cash, in FanDuel, it's no-brainer. Jacob deGrom tonight, in line for what, 60, 70 fantasy points, what he does. Last time out, if I'm not mistaken, he had 60, 70 points, and he got some runs on the board. Jacob deGrom hit I think it was a 2-run double here. If you look at the cash cores, it's just Jacob deGrom across the board, and rightfully so. It's kind of makes our jobs easier, or our hobbies easier, when you can count on these guys like deGrom. Now, in my GPP status, you might say, well, what are you doing here? I love Garrett Richards tonight going for the Boston Red Sox. They're in Atlanta. That lineup is unbelievably talented. Ian Anderson, right-hander, going tonight. Acuna's leading off. These are confirmed, too. Acuna, Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley's batting 5th here. So what are you doing with Garrett Richards in this one? So my notes, I don't know if you guys can see them there right now. So I have that game this evening at about 6-3 in favor of Boston. Now, again, no slight of the Atlanta Braves here, but Boston is just on fire. I mean, they made us some big-time money yesterday. Boston was in my cash cores yesterday, and if you look at it, their lineup is all cemented and confirmed. Marwin leading off, Vertigo, JD, Xander, and Devers. That's the heart of that order, Xander and Devers. I think they do damage tonight in Atlanta, and Garrett Richards is going to be, I don't want to say this out loud because, this is live and people can record it and play it back, but I think Garrett Richards is going to be on easy street in this one. 6-3 final. He'll get a win, maybe a quality start. And for $6,900 on FanDuel, I mean, that's saying something. And again, as you said, Mitch, I've never heard anybody say that before, but I like it. Where a starting pitcher, not going to win you big money, but he'll lose you a contest real quick if he's under 10 or, sub 5 or something along those lines. So that's what I have for my pitchers this evening, and I promise I'll bring the fire with my stacks. I have more, numbers, and I got kind of a routine worked out for my batters coming up, Mitch.
Appreciate it, man. That's a good breakdown. One thing I wanted to highlight, too, on the MySparry.com Edge report. So Boston in the Sparry model actually is favored over the Braves tonight, even though Vegas consensus, doesn't matter where you look, has the opposite. So that kind of plays into what you were saying there. Jacob deGrom certainly going to be extremely highly owned in cash tonight. Tournaments, I'll be intrigued. I think his ownership will certainly be the highest still, but I don't think it's going to be astronomical, like 50, 60%. his price is up there. I think it's hard for people to choke on. Now, one thing you had mentioned was Garrett Richards in tournaments tonight. I find that to be interesting because I feel like for sure tonight he's not going to be highly owned. And our projected ownership on Garrett Richards on the MLB DFS Study Hub over here on teamriseorfall.com, jumping back and forth between the sites here, Garrett Richards projected ownership at 1%. I mean, he is low single digits, and that's going to
phenomenal.
happen. Oh, it's a great call because, you know, when he's on the road in Atlanta, and Atlanta has the second highest implied run total tonight, 5.29 points, at least as far as our update at noon. And, you know, 5.29, that is a healthy implied run total. That's the second highest on the slate. Garrett Richards certainly in a unique spot in tournaments. Definitely someone you're not going to touch with a 10-foot pole in cash games. So let's make that abundantly clear. Now, there's one team.
Again,
go for
Mitch,
it.
Sorry to cut you off. I mean, it could make me look silly, but I on the sports book, I bet Boston 121. Not only do I do DFS, but I do the sports book here. The Red Sox, they're it's not so much about the pitcher, but the offense backing them up. As you said, the Red Sox have the third best team batting average overall. They've won their last 4 games, 19 of the 20 they've won. Listen to this one. Boston has won 19 of the last 26 games played in Atlanta, and that's 31 of 45 overall. So Boston kind of owns Atlanta in their own ballpark. So the Braves have struggled as of late. They've lost their last 8 interleague matchups in their last 5 overall. So again, it's not as silly as it sounds. Again, I said it before. I don't really, early on in the day and even right now, I don't even look at the individual player. I look at the recent betting trends. I look at the over-unders, and then, it just so happens Garrett Richards is the pitcher tonight. So to me, that's how I weave my way to some of my pitching starts, if that makes any sense.
Oh, no, I absolutely love it. One of the spots I was looking at tonight, looking at MySpari's Edge model, I posted that in chat right now to the 60 or so people listening and watching. Go ahead, grab that chat link. It's totally free for use. Boston, the Spari model has Boston favored, minus 127, even though they're coming in at plus 130 odds. So, dude, you might be like the line whisperer here right now, but you are lining up with the model. The model's doing really well over the last 2-3 days. So that is very intriguing to me to hear someone else make that call out, because you never know, right? Part of it is a gut calls, a gut feel, and the other half should be relied upon some type of model, an indicator that says, hey, research this. And if now you have identified that as an interesting spot and the model says the same thing, I kind of want to look a little bit deeper into putting together some Boston stacks tonight, number one, and getting some exposure to Garrett Richards in tournaments, man. I think that's a really, really good call. Now, when I slide over to the stacks, let's go ahead and do that next now. And I'm going to highlight, again, on the Study Hub, the main slate. So we have got a beautiful 8-game slate, the perfect size. I'm going to go over the ownerships tonight. So our projected ownerships much flatter than it was for the past 2 days due to San Diego and Colorado not being on the main slate. So thank goodness. For the last 2 nights, we've seen 21%, 23.5% ownership on the Padres and all things stacks over there on DraftKings of 2, 3, 4, 5-man sizes. Now, tonight on FanDuel, the highest owned teams that we project to be tonight, the Yankees at 15%, Atlanta at 15%, and Houston 15.39%. Those are first, second, and third ownership ranked teams tonight. Now, what I like about that is nobody's super high. We don't have super chalk, but there's also a clear line of separation. Those 3 teams, highest owned. And then from there, it just kind of layers itself out, descending value, 11% San Fran, and so on and so forth, down to single digits. You have an opportunity tonight in tournaments to look at those 3 teams and either A, use them as you normally would, B, cap their exposures, where what that means is basically you're saying, I want them, but I don't want to eat the chalk. I don't want too much of the chalk. And then C, lastly, you could say, screw that. I'm not hitting chalk in a volatile sport. I'm going to fade them. So when it comes to you tonight, Chris, and you've got Atlanta, you have the Yankees, and you have Houston as the 3 highest owned offenses. They also are our 3 highest ranked stacking teams tonight. Where do you sit when it comes to using, capping, or fading these teams?
I'm fading the first two, absolutely. So I told you earlier in the broadcast, I don't want to roster Garrett Cole tonight. Guy's very expensive, but we know what we're going to get with him. But foreign substance kind. I mean, it's been a hot button topic for like a week or so now. And then look what happened. His last time out, he didn't do so hot. His price has been over 10,000 for quite some time, at least on FanDuel. And he got wailed on last time out. So I'm not willing to spend that money for Garrett Cole. And in turn, I'm not willing to spend the money on the Yankees hitters this evening. So Chicago is in, I believe, Chicago's playing the New York Yankees tonight. And it's just going to be a very tough game.
I'm going to step in real quick, Chris, just to help you out here too, because we have Yankees at Toronto tonight. And you nailed it, though. You nailed it because the Sparring model aligns again with what you just said. So Vegas consensus -166 for the Yanks. We have Toronto favored at -108. That's where the model is. So, dude, you are spot on here with 2 upset calls tonight. And you're making me want to go put in a parlay over there on like FanDuel Sportsbook or something, man. You keep it up.
Absolutely. I'll send some screenshots to you, and I forget. See, so sometimes pen and paper. I use a pen and paper since day one. That'll never change. I know people love, spreadsheets or talking into something and playing it back, hearing their own voice. I can never get away with a pen and paper, but with that comes human error. So I said what'd I say? Chicago at the Yankees. No, false. The Yankees are playing Toronto here. So I'm fading the Yankees hitters. I'm fading the Atlanta Braves hitters. And again, people are going to flock to the Yankees and the Braves in droves, and that's okay. Like I said, I have Toronto winning that matchup 6-3, 6-4, something along those lines. So I don't want those batters aside from Toronto, and I want nothing with Atlanta. To me, if you look at my cash cores, I want Houston and a lot of it. So Texas they're 3-14 their last 17 games. They're 1-17 their last 18 games on the road. I mean, to me, it couldn't be any more clear. I have Houston putting up about 7 or 8 runs. So to me, it's only fair that we're going to stack Jose Altuve at second base, Bregman at third, Carlos Correa at shortstop, and even Michael Brantley. Now, their line has been confirmed already. If you got a second, I can give it to you. Altuve's leading off per usual. Brantley's batting second. Bregman is third. And then for some odd reason, Carlos Correa started to click at batting 6 overall. There's been times where they'll put him at cleanup or they'll put him at third, but he stayed in the 6th hole for quite some time now, and he's kind of perked up. And I'm not getting into the garbage cans and the cheating and all that nonsense. Houston is hitting right now, and I don't care how they're doing it, but I want them in all my lineups this evening, Mitch.
I like that you separated those 2 highly owned teams tonight, Atlanta, New York, and said, you know what? I'm cool with fading those. I'm not fading Houston, and I understand it. I'm going to slide over on the screen real quick as well to our Trends Stacks tab. And Chris, I know that you do your own things, but things like our tool here is phenomenal for people who kind of need that quick answer, right? It gives them brief overview of the slate. Now, I'm looking at Houston. I'm looking at the last 14 days for team splits. Houston, over the last 14 days against right-handed pitchers, have 297 plate appearances. This is on screen for users right now. When you're looking at Houston, they have a team WOBA of 410 against right-handed pitchers, a team ISO of 207, and a walk rate of 10.5%. WRC plus an astronomical 168.5. That is all right there on the MLB Study Hub on the website. The only team really with a hotter or a higher WOBA is KC tonight with a 431, but that is only in 70 plate appearances against a left-handed pitcher. Houston is just red hot, nuclear. They've gone nuclear over the last just about 3-4 weeks of baseball. And when we are looking at whom they're facing tonight, they're facing Jordan Lyles. Jordan Lyles, certainly somebody can get roughed up. He is not a high strikeout guy, 21.01% through his splits matchup today. Over the last 2 years of baseball, Jordan Lyles has just a 21.5% strikeout rate. So it's not like he's going to be making bats miss. If he's going to be pitching to contact against one of the hottest teams in baseball, hitting-wise, especially against right-handed pitchers, it is hard for me as well to get off of Houston in any way tonight. So Houston's certainly going to be one of those teams I am using. I'm going to go out of my way to get there, and I'm doing the same thing. In fact, I'm actually going to be be capping both the Yankees and Atlanta. Very low exposures on my large side of my stacks. And then on my 2-man side on DraftKings and 3-man side on FanDuel, I'm fading them outright. I figure if I'm going to be sitting on chalk at all tonight, I want those to be extremely large stacks. So if the team goes off, at least I have 4, 5 full players of chalky hitters if they go off. I don't want 2. Everybody who else used the Astros chalk tonight and has 4-man stacks, 5-man stacks, my 2-man stack is dead in the water. So if you're going to be using chalk, you might as well go big. Any final comments you want to kind of highlight? Like, hey, these are some teams that could surprise you tonight. These are some hitters I maybe identified as great one-offs, somebody you want to build around. If there's anybody like that, go ahead, man. Fire it off. Absolutely.
Real quick, I won't keep us here all night because you know I could. And when we get together, we could probably talk all night. I just want to highlight the evening game, the last game on the slate, and it's in Seattle. Minnesota Twins go to Seattle. First pitch there is at 10:10, actually same time as Philly at the Dodgers here. But when you look at the game here, so everything that you look at doesn't seem that surprising. The money line is -140 to Minnesota. Minnesota's projected at 4.5 runs. Seattle's projected at 4. The projected win percentage is about the same. And as I said, the over-under is right at 8.5. But when you look at this team, Mitch, you said it in the beginning of the broadcast. Seattle has been, their bats have started to perk up, and it's been, Jake Fraley in the outfield, who's still, fairly reasonably priced. I mean, I believe on Monday he was an even $2,000 on FanDuel, and I would believe he was dirt cheap on DraftKings. Now he's in the 3,000. So you can tell that they're finally catching up to him, which is fine. He's going to be batting probably 5th, but both teams, when they get together this evening, I have this game as it's an over. So if you're going to bet, which I know we're talking DFS, but an over bet, it makes it sound great for DFS purposes. So the over-under is at 8.5. That's a smash over to me. I have the final here. Minnesota will win about 9-6. So to me, this screams, let's play a single game slate. Now, I know people are a fan of that. Some people aren't. I'm in between. I rarely do it. But if you want to play a single game tonight, it's this one. It's Minnesota and it's Seattle. Now, again, both teams are very reasonably priced. If you wanted to just do a DFS stack, a full game stack, not a single game, you could get it in here. Donaldson, Trevor Larnach, Nelson Cruz, Jorge Polanco. And then on the other side of things, J.P. Crawford at shortstop, Mitch Haniger. He's got the questionable tag, but more than likely he'll be in the lineup tonight. Seager, Ty France, and Jake Fraley. Now, there's some other cheaper portions that you can mix and match if you wanted to. Dylan Moore, Jake Bauers at first base. And then on the Minnesota side of things, Nick Gordon, who's been a nice kind of roster filler, like a dirt cheap $2,000 kind of play here. But look for me to have a ton of exposure to not only Seattle and Minnesota together and then separately here. And if you look at my cores real quick, Mitch, and anybody is watching this live or will watch this, just know that I love the idea of Minnesota. These are the stat combos I kind of wrote down. Minnesota and Baltimore, Toronto, Seattle, and then you take those 4 teams and then you can mix and match them. You can get every combo of those 4 teams, and that's what I do on a daily basis, and that's what I'm going to do this evening. Now, I know one more thing, and I'll quit talking, Mitch, but there's all these weird different strategies, and some of them are cut to a T with numbers and stuff. But over the years, I know people love, if Maine starts at 7:10 or 7:05, you like to have, a stack or a couple dudes, 2 or 3 guys from the late game, right? The 7 p.m. games are done. All the line, you got that one team sitting in first for $5,000, and then bam, you come up the rear with the late game and you take over first place because you have that later game. Not saying it works every night, but I know that's a strategy people like to play. And it just so happens Minnesota, Seattle are on the after hours slate. I'll be stacking them heavily, not only then and in the main. So to me, Mitch, Minnesota, Seattle is all the action for me tonight, buddy.
Phenomenal call. Late night hammer, certainly something to pay attention to. Now, I'm going to highlight 2 things that, once again, my friends, this guy is basically a human machine, a human computer, because he is aligning himself with what many of the model indicators are saying. And I'm going to highlight two different ways to show that I'm totally right there with them, because Seattle, one of my favorite teams to stack tonight. I am looking at the myspread.com edge report again, and I'll have to share you. I'll give you a login, Chris, because I think you'll really like this. I never knew you were so big into sports betting. Seattle tonight, consensus implied run total 3.86. Sparring model has Seattle at 5.34. That is a grade of an A, okay? It's one of 4 on the site for the entire night. Now, when you're looking at the game total, game total for consensus, 8.5 runs. Sparring model has it at 9.8, almost a full run and a half higher than what the game total is for the over. Absolutely. So right there with you. Seattle, a massive, that's 1.5 higher than what Seattle's implied run total is. Now, when I slide over to the study hub, here is why this is happening. Seattle, first off, gets a nice matchup against Bailey Ober. Number 2, they have great splits over the last 14 days. And if you go out the 30 days, and Chris, I know you can't see it on the study hub, but there's a tab on the far right of the study hub, and this is a great tutorial opportunity for me. On the study hub, there's a tab called Batter Trends. And Chris, if you don't have access to this, you make sure after the chat is over here, let me know, and I'll make sure you can look at all this as well. So you can have all your research in one place if you'd like. So I'm looking at the last 30 days splits for Seattle versus righties, the last 14 days, Seattle versus righties, and the last 7 days, Seattle versus righties. In every single category, Jake Fraley is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Yes. He's a 400 WOBA, 400 ISO man in all 3 splits sample sizes. And then you also have multiple hitters who are red hot right now in smaller sample sizes of, 21 plate appearances, 37, 40 plate appearances. But Kyle Seager, JP Crawford, Dylan Moore, these guys are heating up big time. Mitch Haniger, always lethal over the last 7 days, 17 at-bats, 348 WOBA, 214 ISO. And what I like the most, too, is the WRC+. Plus. These guys are really, really high all individually right now, which collectively as a team means they're really, really starting to put it together. And this matchup is glorious. So Sparry, mysparry.com, aligns with you. The Study Hub aligns with you. And Chris, you are a wealth of knowledge. I appreciate your insight. I love the fire and energy you bring. It kind of makes me want to match it each and every night, which is so refreshing, as I have spent probably 600 to 700 streams over the last 2-3 years totally by myself. So to do these joint sessions with you has been an absolute pleasure,
man. Take pressure off, absolutely.
Oh, man, I get to sit here, I listen, I'm taking mental notes, I'm trying to see, all right, where's he get that from? All right, cool, here it is. So pretty nice, man, I appreciate it. teamriseorfall.com, and I'll have to look at it. I'm going to start figuring out what your promo code is. I know we made one on the site, but anytime we do these things together, make sure you shout out your promo code so you can try to get a little extra recognition. And thank you so much, dude. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Good luck, everybody. We'll see you on the inside in Discord. You can find Chris in there, find me in there. And on your way out, do us both a big favor. Hit the like button on the video if you enjoy free content and you want this to continue to happen in the future. Chris and I will continue to try to carve out time for you, the community. We love you.